Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. Behind me, you see a solemn photograph. Those are the caskets of our 13 unbelievably brave martyrs who died needlessly because of incompetent, traitorous decisions of Biden and Harris. They would not be dead if that criminal wasn't elected. While those bodies were being displayed, that man displayed exactly how cruel and evil he really is by doing this. At least 4 or 5 times. That watch was probably purchased with bribe money because he got millions in bribe money. His son tells you that half of his income, of his son's income, went to his father for 30 years. Of course, the press never tells you that, nor do the politicians. There's the watch. This should be his presidential photograph. He shouldn't be allowed a portrait. This should be hung. So we remind ourselves that we once had a traitor for president. Afghanistan proves that he's a traitor. The death of those members of our military is unforgivable. The way he treats their families even more unforgivable. The recent political ploy by Comrade Cackling Harris is unforgivable. And most important, when you review the report by Congressman McCoy and his committee, a two-year endeavor that's quite detailed about how he overruled his entire military staff and his Secretary of Defense, none of which thought it was necessary to quit as patriotic Americans when he got these young men and women killed. None of them thought to quit after he did something that's completely unexplainable, which is take out the military before the civilians, which led to innumerable deaths of Americans and Afghans who supported us, or leaving behind billions of dollars in lethal arms that the Taliban and the 3 other terrorist groups in Afghanistan have used since then to kill Americans, those who supported America, and who knows how many others. But most egregiously and impossible to defend is just giving up Bagram Air Base. It's an air base that was 400 miles from China. It afforded us an incredible strategic advantage. It was probably worth the 20 to 30 million that China paid his family to have us abandon that base. And then the bonus is that China now has it. And we're supposed to sit here and just accept all that and go along with our incredibly anti-American press that won't report it. Comrade Cackling has said that she considered Afghanistan a success, a great success, and she completely supported giving up the Bagram base, which means she's offering more of the same and worse. She's carrying with her into office someone who at least is putting on a really good act or show that he's a Chinese operative. And that's the cowardly, that's the words of his minister, by the way. That's the cowardly governor of Minnesota who allowed Minneapolis to burn, Comrade Walls. If he's not a communist, he won't answer any questions explaining why he worked with Red China for 30 years. apparently work for them, teaching. You get a chance to change all that. Don't um, don't take anything for granted. Don't stop working. We still have hostages in Israel. One wouldn't know that because the Biden, Harris, Walls team never mentions that. They're American hostages. One of them was killed just a few weeks ago. You wouldn't know that either, would you? You wouldn't know that we lost an American. Uh, and for all these months, we wouldn't know that there are American hostages there. And during this unbelievably orchestrated Biden Harris Walls campaign, they're never mentioned. Well, yesterday in Central Park, there was a protest or a gathering to remember the hostages, the 100 hostages, including the 7 American Israelis that are still being held and are all but forgotten by the ruling fascist regime. Former hostage Moran Stella Yanai said her heart is breaking for those that are still there. She was freed in November. We remember them. And let's hope they stay alive because, like the hostages in Iran many decades ago, when we elect a real president, they'll be released. But let's hope they're alive then. I want to support Congressman Anthony D'Esposito and Mike Lawler, who are recommending that September 11 be a federal holiday. It's now a national day of remembrance, which is denominated as Patriot Day. And it should be a federal holiday because, as we will go into more detail tomorrow on the anniversary of September 11 and on September 11, it needs to be remembered because according to our law enforcement authorities, including the head of the FBI, things are more dangerous now than they were then. There's a period of time after September 11 where there was some solace on September 11 that things had gotten safer. But since Biden's been in office, things have gotten markedly more dangerous, mostly because of the invasion of who knows how many spies. We don't know because we don't stop them. A number come across, and we don't even know they crossed. A number come across, and we stop them and let them in. We asked the Chinese 4 questions because we don't want them. We don't want the illegal Chinese that are coming in to be delayed in getting in here. Just like Biden had their balloon escorted to our most sensitive bases so they could take all the pictures they wanted to their heart's content. And then they could relay them all back. This was an unmanned craft. They could relay them all back to China, who now has them. And then he shot down the balloon when it left the continental United States. I often say he probably called his employer, Mr. Z, his friend, and said, "Is it okay for me to shoot it down now?" And he got permission. I mean, that's sarcastic, but not far from the truth, is it? And now we've got a candidate with all of the earmarks of Walls on the ballot, and nobody is questioning it, even with the arrest of 2 spies, one of them at the highest level of New York State government, after Feinstein, who was on the Intelligence Committee, had a red Chinese driver for 19 years who was a spy, and that other complete jackass and liar, Swalwell, who they keep electing because it's California, had a mistress who was a Chinese spy. What else? I mean, what else? What else has to be shown to realize that we've let China completely infiltrate us? Completely. A former a former CIA, I guess, head of intelligence, told the New York Post the other day that New York is a Chinese spy hub. That's nice to know. But I mean, so is San Francisco. Look at the celebration for Z when he came there. The Chinese people were jumping up and down for joy. Joy, joy, joy. Kind of joy they had at the Democratic convention. Except they were yelling joy, 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 and happy, happy, happy for the man who killed more Chinese than any living person. You want to explain that? Well, you don't need to explain it. Just don't vote for them. Don't be as stupid as the people of California. Look what they're doing to California. Look at what's happening all throughout the country with these Democrat mayors and governors. Walz isn't the only complete failure. Look at the nitwit in Colorado, Mr. Feliz Navidad, who won't help the people of Aurora, who are being overwhelmed by Tran Aragua, because he has an aggressive sanctuary state, sanctuary city policy. Denver has a sanctuary city policy. It has gotten more illegal aliens per capita than even New York. A suburb called Coral Aurora. And Mr. Feliz Navidad doesn't believe the people of Aurora. He thinks they're lying and exaggerating. You want to hear him?
Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz.
That represents the current Democrat Party. No wonder Robert F. Kennedy Jr. left it. And just yesterday, well, Tulsi Gabbard left, right? Yeah. And Professor Dershowitz. Dershowitz today or yesterday said, I've had it. I can't remain a Democrat any longer and be true to myself. Yeah, I mentioned that. So, I want you to remember that scene.
We got Dershowitz, they got Cheney. I think we did better in that trade.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Cheney, yeah. I bet they won't go hunting with him.
Yeah. When you,
I mean, Cheney, it's ridiculous. They considered Cheney Darth Vader. They used to call him Darth Vader. So now they have the support of Darth Vader.
It's bizarre, right?
The Democrats, including Schumer, and they would call him Darth Vader. He was like the Eminence Grise of the Bush administration, Rasputin. I'm sure the moronic idiots who are Democrats don't know who Rasputin is.
Well, they have no idea.
No. Even the Ivy.
I bet my life on that.
Even the Ivy League graduates, all they learn about is gender change at Harvard. No, you know that. Huh. I tell you what, I paid for a Harvard degree for one of my children.
You did. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, man, I should.
You have a kid that.
Yeah, I should get my money back. I mean, they really.
I should say that she's very smart.
She is, but what you see of many of the graduates of this, completely uneducated. Like, let's stop the Israeli occupation of Palestine. Well, that only stopped in 2005. Well, if you have Israel is a colonizer. Israel is a colonizer. And in fact, Israel didn't colonize anything. Israel was given the territory by the UN, as was Syria and Jordan. These are just uneducated little snot-noses. They should have been brought up by our grandfathers. They'd have been slapped around. Can't have corporal punishment.
Oh, my dad went to a Catholic school.
Can't have corporal. I got plenty of corporal punishment by the nuns, even more than the brothers.
Rulers, I was told.
The nuns were tougher than the brothers.
That's what I was told.
Well, we're going to be back very shortly, and we're going to talk about the spread of terrorism here on 2 days before September 11, and show you concretely how things have gotten worse since September 11. We'll be right back. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes
have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Well, welcome back to America's Mayor Live. You know, we have been warned by the feckless head of the FBI any number of times that the threat of terrorism has gotten worse, much worse than it has been. I don't know if he's actually said it's worse than before September 11th, but there are others that have said that. And it's at least my observation that it has to be, given all of the unknowns in terms of the anywhere from 10 to 20 million that have come into this country as illegal aliens. I say it could be as much as, 15 or 20 million because a lot of the ones that come in are never observed. So you have your 3.5 million, let's say, that came in last year and were catch and release by Biden. And they're almost not vetted. The Chinese are asked 4 questions. There are any number of instances reported where nobody was asked any questions. They just moved them along as fast as possible. They record them as seeking asylum. Some don't even recite the magic words. So we don't really, even the ones that we apprehend, we don't really know really who they are. I mean, we've let a hell of a lot of criminals in. Then there are the ones that we see, but can't stop them. Wouldn't do much good if we stop them because we're just going to release them, but at least we get a little information on them. Some of those we have names and observations. And then there are those we never get to see. Well, who the hell knows how many of those there are? Now, there's a lot of them because the more the Border Patrol or whatever the heck we have is tied up with actually acting as escorts for the illegal aliens, the less surveillance there is of all the other places that are open on the border. And we have the expertise of a very, very sophisticated organized crime group, the Mexican cartels that own the border. So they're going to make the big money on the people that they bring in unobserved. One of those was arrested for rape in New Orleans recently. Nobody made much of a point of it, but I noticed when I read the story that there's no indication of when he came into the United States. That means we don't know when he came into the United States to be here to rape a 13-year-old girl. You know how often that happens? We showed you Mr. Clown before, representing really the Democrat Party, the governor of Colorado, who's very much celebrated, by the way. They think he's quite something. The guy has ruined Denver, ruined it. And he's a complete jackass, as you can see. Well, terrorism struck last week. We reported it last week. Mohammed Shahzeb Khan, 20 years old, was arrested in Canada by the FBI in what is, in fact, quite a intense investigation. He was planning to attack on October 7 a very big Jewish center in Brooklyn. Originally, he was going to attack in another city, according to the FBI investigation and affidavit, but he changed it to New York and this particular Jewish center in Brooklyn that he has pictures of the layout. And he was planning with Confederates to attack them on the 7th of October and to shoot up the entire place. Luckily, the FBI worked this case for some time, worked in undercover agents, and from my reading, at least, of the affidavit, they've got an awful lot of information, obviously, they haven't disclosed, because they were into this guy for quite some time. And he was into he was into the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, which is an ISIS affiliate in Iraq. So this is the kind of work that the FBI used to do routinely, and hopefully will return to when we get a real president who holds them accountable. And they are capable of it. I mean, they still have incredibly good, talented agents, as this case demonstrated. But terrorism is rampant now in Israel. You had 3 Israeli citizens that were shot across the Jordanian border at the Allenby Bridge. You've got 11 or so Israelis killed in the last week or so with increased terrorism. There was a terrorist arrested near the Gaza border who was planning a major terrorist attack. That's in Israel. And Israel attributes it to the coming of Ramadan. Don't you have to wonder how every year when this religious holiday comes about, we've got to worry about innocent people being killed by Islamic extremist terrorists? And the cackling idiot who's going to debate tomorrow night doesn't think we should use the word Islamic extremism. All the Biden Harris administration have done is appease. Iran just sold ballistic missiles or gave ballistic missiles to Russia. Those ballistic missiles within a few days will be killing Ukrainians. And Biden supports Ukraine. Gosh, that's a hell of a way to support them. Since he's been in office, the Chinese infiltration of this country has become epidemic. Well, it stands to reason. He was paid enormous amounts of money by them. And that's going to have to be undone. By the way, the alien that I was talking about, who is undocumented, who raped the girl in New Orleans, which unfortunately is happening all the time with these Biden-Harris invitees, is Diego Rodriguez Salvador, who is from Honduras. They don't all come from Venezuela. A lot of them do, but they come from all over. And there's no record of how he got in, which puts him in the either the got away or we never saw him category. Who knows how many are in the we never saw him category, but this rapist was. In New York, there was a demonstration at Floyd Bennett Field. Floyd Bennett Field was one time a federal airfield. At another time, it was a facility for the New York Police Department for taking care of our helicopter fleet. Now it's inhabited by 2,000 illegal aliens who are wreaking havoc on the Marine Park neighborhood that they completely have terrorized. It's like Aurora, the situation in Aurora. These people were invited here by Adams. Adams laid out the biggest benefits and the most free stuff for illegal aliens, including he still gives them credit cards. So they came here in large numbers. He blames it on Governor Abbott, who sent him probably no more than 5 or 10%. Most of them were sent here by Biden and Harris on airplanes and buses. And most of them requested coming here because he was making it so attractive to come here, as was Walz in Minnesota and Mr. Feliz Navidad in Colorado. They were giving them more free benefits than any place else. So the people of Marine Park don't want the lease renewed, which comes up on September 14th. And Adams, who talks out of both sides of his mouth on this, doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he doesn't know if he's going to renew it, not renew it. And he still continues to give him money. And he still continues to pay inordinate amounts of money to the service providers for the migrants. And suspiciously or interestingly, or we must follow up on it, the guy who was doing that for him, who was giving out all these multi-million-dollar contracts for many, many more benefits for the illegal aliens than for our own homeless or veterans, the guy who was giving out those contracts just had his home raided by the FBI, as did Adams' police commissioner, deputy police commissioner, chief of staff, brother of the head of his education department, the head of his education department. I mean, virtually his entire top staff was raided by the FBI. One of the things I noticed is one of the people raided was the guy who was giving out these no-bid, massive, ridiculously large contracts to the service providers for the migrants, like Floyd Bennett Field. People are making a fortune on this, which may be the reason why out of one side of his mouth, he encourages them to come, and out of the other side of his mouth, he's asking Biden to pay for it. Well, the minute he started landing on Biden, that was the first day they raided one of his employees or one of his subservient, whatever the hell they are. So he's under investigation for accepting illegal campaign contributions from Turkish nationals. That's one investigation. Not charged. It's investigation. Now, this investigation seems to involve, at a minimum, these migrant deals, as well as the police department. There's a whole issue with the police commissioner and one of his, I guess it's one of people close to Adams, shaking down the clubs, the clubs that our friend Adams likes to inhabit. Now, none of it at this point links to Harris, except it's everybody around him, and all of it has to be gleaned from what you get of the affidavits, which are mostly sealed. But it is extraordinary that his entire staff was raided all at the same time. We'll have to see. It may be that maybe they did nothing. It may be that they did a lot, and like Ed Koch, it just happened around him. Or it may be that he's deeply involved. All three are possibilities raised by what we know from the outside. Meanwhile, the alien crimes just continue and continue and continue. Aurora is just one example of a suburb destroyed because Denver decided to be a sanctuary city, and then the overflow from Denver ended up in Aurora. Same thing is happening in Nassau, Suffolk, here in New York, which is why you'd be out of your mind to vote for a Democrat for Congress, because they support open borders. And as soon as the election is over, they'll go back to aggressively doing it. 27% apparently of these illegal aliens have already registered to vote in the Democrat states where, election laws are there to be violated. Crooked Democratic states.
People from other countries
that'll vote Democrat.
Well, I mean, Rob makes a point. Democrats support, aggressively support abortion, including in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th month. Their support for abortion has really seems to be accomplishing what Margaret Sanger wanted to do when she started Planned Parenthood. Part of it was wipe out a good deal of the black race. She was a massive racist. And now basically our government supports Planned Parenthood, and they probably kill more babies than any group anywhere, to such an extent that in Harlem and in the black community in New York, I don't think it's just Harlem. I think last year, more black children were aborted than were born. That's a state of affairs that is extraordinarily dangerous, and the motive behind it extraordinarily dangerous. Eugenics, and there's a big deal with all of these one world people, Gates, and there's a big deal with Hitler. Well, we got the debate coming up tomorrow night. A lot rests on it, doesn't it? The future of this country, as we know it, rests on it. A poll released yesterday has Trump back in the lead, and this was a New York Times Siena College poll, so you know they're not giving any breaks to Trump here, and he's leading in this poll. He's leading in this poll 48-47, which is a national poll. Which, I know it's more time-consuming and more difficult to follow each of the, let's say, 7 to 10 swing states, but that's going to decide the election, the Electoral College. So if you want to look at the last couple of elections, including the one that Trump won in 2016, I think he lost the popular vote there by 2 or 3% and won the electoral vote. He lost the popular vote by about 4 or 5 to Biden the second time. And the electoral vote, was pretty darn close. So you would say that an even split, if it were a real honest poll, would mean that he's going to win the electoral vote. Well, right now he's ahead 48-47 in this New York Times poll. And if you look at the issues, there is something to this personality thing, because on the issues he should be wiping her out. On abortion, according to this poll, they support her, but they support her by only a 5% margin. In other words, it isn't that great a difference. It's 54-49. They also support her on democracy, 50-45. That's also a 5-point difference. But where they support Trump, it's a major difference. On the economy, it's a 15-point difference. On immigration, it's a 10-point difference. On inflation, it's a 15-point difference. So on the issues, he's killing her. And this idea of personality, 37% of the people voting for Trump have been offended by something that he said, but they're voting for him anyway. Also, 56% say they don't believe that Harris represents a change, whereas 51% say that Trump represents a change. And a number of polls have indicated that, including the interpretation of Carville, that the Americans are going to vote for change. So if things go well in the debate tomorrow night, we should see Trump expanding the lead. But let's see. Tomorrow night's debate will be the one opportunity to explore Harris's unbelievably complicated policy positions. She's taken every position on every issue at some time. I mean, fracking, for example. up until some undetermined time within the last year, she was against fracking. She lied in her interview with Dana Trump Bash and said that, or Bash Trump or whatever. She said she changed her position during the 2020 election debate. People have gone back and listened to the debate, and she said no such thing. Nor did she ever say anything that she opposed fracking. Up until recently, everyone thought she was still where she was when she last made a statement saying that she 100% supported banning fracking. Well, the 100% has changed now, and now we don't know if she supports it or she doesn't support it or if she even knows what it is. Because the responses come from her staff since she hasn't had a live press conference in 57 days, something like that, which is extraordinary and outrageous and proves that we don't have a press. We don't have a free press. We have a press that is dominated, controlled by the fascist regime. Otherwise, they would demand a press conference. Oh, she also had no votes. I mean, nobody voted for her. She was selected by the Democrat bosses without a single vote. She was also their worst candidate in 2020, dropped out the earliest, was completely decimated by Tulsi Gabbard, and had to leave the campaign. She's also been ridiculed more than any vice president I can think of, and until recently has been the most unpopular vice president ever. Now, all of a sudden, the press has anointed her, except we still don't know her positions. For example, it appears that she's for rent control. There's another thing we could straighten out tomorrow night. She doesn't want doesn't want people raising their rents more than 5%. Well, that's rent control. Rent control destroyed housing in New York City. We did away with it. Even the Democrats did away with it. It's about as communist as you can get. She's in favor of, she came out in favor of price controls. Then she limited it to groceries. Then she found out that groceries, number one, would disproportionately hurt the poor and create a massive inflation. And she backed off it, or her staff did. But she's going to attack price gouging, including in the food business. The reality is the margin of profit in that business is about 2%. So if you attack price gouging, they'd be operating at a loss, and we'd put them out of business. We've already put a lot out of business, which is the reason the prices go up. I mean, her positions on the economy are insane, Marxist, stupid, ignorant. She failed the bar exam, but she studied the law. She apparently has never studied economics 101. She doesn't know I mean, she's a complete fool on the economy. She just says things that make no sense. And having been a chief executive of and managing probably the third or fourth largest budget in the country, I got to tell you, you don't know that. You don't know the budget, and they can do anything to you. I mean, you've got to understand the budget, and you got to have the discipline to understand it. She has no discipline. She really doesn't have a rational mind, and she does. Her pronouncements on the economy are insane. I mean, I just hope that it can be brought out tomorrow night. I mean, the structure. I don't think they're going to be allowed to ask each other any questions. So I don't know that the moderators who are part of a network, I think that's run by her best friend, or I mean, this is a network that kisses her backside constantly. So I don't know if they can ask her any of the tough questions. I mean, Dana Trump Bash didn't. Gave her the answers occasionally, gave her multiple choice questions she couldn't answer, and tried to help her out as much as possible. She made a blithering idiot out of herself. I don't know if even ask a question. I mean, how do you feel tonight? And would you like some more water? Or meanwhile, Trump, why are you such a scoundrel and crook? Right? I mean, who knows? So, I mean, another thing to ask her is her position on free speech. So, Kamala Harris in 2019 advocated, and also when she was running for president, short time until she blew up, that Trump should be excluded from Twitter. She said that being able to speak was a privilege. And then in that debate, apparently, I got to go back and check this, Ted. Liz Warren disagreed with her. She wouldn't agree that Twitter should ban Trump from the platform, taking the more traditional view that liberals take that people should be allowed to speak, even if you disagree with them. Apparently, she doesn't understand that, nor does she understand the First Amendment, which might explain why she failed the bar exam. But she's against free speech. She, aggressively against free speech. And the guy running her campaign is the guy who was conniving for all of the censorship with big tech for the Biden administration until recently. So she's going to bring in an expert on censorship and deprivation of the First Amendment if you make the terrible mistake of voting for her. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. And we're going to talk about the rise of anti-Semitism, because it's getting epidemic now, at least in America and Western Europe, and awfully reminiscent of a terrible period many decades ago. We'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Well, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor Live, if you didn't know. And behind me is the most beautiful flag in the world that should be honored and adored. Whoever said it's just a piece of cloth, it should be put in hell. I'm thinking now about the image of the firefighters who put the flag up on September 11, because we're coming so close to September 11. And I got to tell you, that, of course, were immediately brought to mind, to me, Iwo Jima. And it was much more than a photograph. It lifted my spirits in a day in which I really, really needed that. And it said to me that our generation, at least back then, had it. We had the same courage and the same dedication to freedom and the same fighting spirit that our ancestors did. And that obviously Donald Trump has, when he emerged from almost being killed and immediately said, fight, fight, fight. Our forefathers would have been proud of that, because our forefathers made it clear, you're not going to preserve freedom unless you fight for it. Ronald Reagan warned us that freedom is just, one generation away. These are great people who warned us of this. The people in this regime are pygmies. A lot of them are worse than that. A lot of them are criminals and traitors. Anti-Semitism has flourished, and you hear nothing from our fascist regime about that, do you? Greta, Greta, Greta Thunberg, that climate change wizard, who has 3 times told us our world was going to be gone, and it's still here. Thank goodness. But the one who swallows climate change like a lot of our poorly educated, atheistic children who need a religion of some kind and make climate change their religion. She now has become a vile, awful anti-Semite, a Jew hater, beyond just the whole Palestinian thing. She's been at demonstrations where the crowds were chanting anti-Jewish, anti-Israel slogans. She's done it herself. She said that Israel commits genocide. She wants the destruction of the state of Israel. The Post has an editorial here that links together the worldwide overlap is massive between Green Crusaders and the crazy Kifa kids who back Hamas. It's what happens when historically illiterate, empty-headed adolescents fan under the sway of a monstrous ideologues waving the banner of an ideology that rests on sorting all people into oppressors and oppressed. Guess which group Jews fall in? This is very dangerous. This is going on all throughout Western Europe. It's going on all throughout the United States. It's going on in large measure in the biggest Jewish city in America and one of the biggest in the world, New York, a city that owes so much to the Jewish people. And any understanding of history by any kind of educated person would know that. The BBC, which is over in England, right, which had an anti-Semitism problem leading up to the Second World War, and one of the reasons they didn't recognize the danger of Hitler was a softness on anti-Semitism in Great Britain, not shared by the great hero of the 20th century, Winston Churchill, who warned them about Hitler and they wouldn't listen. Just like we've been warning you about Islamic extremism, and we're not allowed to say Islamic extremism. Just like we've been warning you about China, and Biden's been taking millions from it. The BBC has been found to have, over the last year or better, carried on a major campaign of anti-Semitism. This is a study done by Trevor Anderson and his and a media watchdog group, and it studied something like 1,500 instances in which the BBC associated Israel with genocide, for example, 14 times more than Hamas, and completely downplayed the role of Hamas in the terrorism that led to the war that's now going on, and completely exaggerated and used all of the propaganda and statistics given by the terrorist group Hamas in support of Hamas. I don't know. This was probably done before the recent attack on the hostages who were killed in cold blood by Hamas, including an American, which has been completely ignored by, I'm sure, the BBC, European media, American media, and by the president, the vice president, and the China-loving vice presidential candidate. You never hear him talk about the horrible atrocity committed by Hamas which doesn't get any interpretation, to accept Israel's depravity, alleged depravity towards civilians, you got to accept the word of Hamas, which I would not suggest you do. To understand the evilness of Hamas, all you got to do is look at the video. They just wiped these people out in cold blood, the way you would kill prisoners of war instead of care for them. These are animals. Now, they say that Israel is killing too many civilians. The reality is, by every objective standards, they're not. Even with the inflated Hamas numbers, it's less than the numbers that we killed in our wars. And nobody goes back to the Second World War. What about when we were bombing the hell out of Germany? Not even the atomic attacks in Japan, but Germany. We bombed the hell out of the German cities. And when it was raised with Churchill, they said, well, they did the same thing to us, which they did. They were killing civilians during the Battle of Britain, the Nazis. Well, Churchill returned the favor. You got to protect your people. I don't know why this is so damn complicated or how this is switched around and Israel becomes the bad guy and the Islamic extremist terrorists, guided by the Islamic Republic of Iran, are the good guys. I mean, we've given billions of dollars to Iran. Trump had them on the balls of their ass. They didn't have any money. They couldn't do what they're doing now if Trump had remained in office. They'd be crushed by now. And now, instead, they've become wealthy under Biden. He lifted the sanctions. He keeps lifting them. He literally makes sure they make millions. I don't know if he gives them cash like Obama did, because Obama didn't fess up to that until he got caught. He was giving them millions and millions of dollars in cash. You're giving millions of dollars in cash, and you got to know it's going to terrorists. There is no one that doesn't realize that Iran supports terrorists. So why the hell would you give them money when you know the money is going to terrorists? Aren't you, when you release money to them, knowingly releasing money for terrorist activities? Of course you are. So what the hell is he doing still sitting in the White House, or her sitting in the vice president's office, or Obama becoming a billionaire or whatever the hell he is? Yeah. Obama should be in jail for giving them cash. Well, the debate's coming up, and the election stands, I guess you would say, pretty close to even. I do think, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible in looking at these polls, and we'll take a better look tomorrow night at the actual swing state polls. Let's give it a chance for the polls to settle in over the weekend to see if there's any change there. The Siena New York Times poll shows a change in favor of Trump, and an issue gap that's quite significant. But I think tomorrow's debate is going to be very important, largely because Harris is such an unknown candidate, right? What Trump does is going to be important, and I agree with all of those who say the less, the better, the milder, the better. He doesn't have to prove that he's a lot tougher than she is, that he's a fighter, that he'll fight for us, that he'll do a better job of fighting for us than she does. I would say he does have to harp on the issues. The main one being just asking Americans to consider the way things were 4 years ago and the way things are now. I mean, we didn't have this massive rise in the price of critical things that we have to buy. I mean, at one point, Biden and Harris were telling us we don't have inflation, we just have rising prices, because they're both idiots. That's what inflation is. The things she's proposing, including the lapsing of the Trump tax cuts, would be the biggest tax increase we've ever had. And it would affect the middle class. Liars, liars, liars. It would affect the middle class dramatically. It's one of the reasons why things cost what they cost. The unbelievable waste of money in this administration, the so-called anti-inflation bill, that one of those bills passed up with her vote, her tie-breaking vote, to inflict inflation on us. So let's hope that the debate gets into those issues, because if you've listened to Trump over the last 3 to 4 weeks, including his speech at the Economic Club, they're quite substantive, and they're filled with proposals. I mean, he obviously, the man was a businessman all his life. He obviously understands the economy really, really well, and had it humming until COVID came along. And even after COVID, he began the recovery, which they created a major setback in. I mean, it was remarkable the first 2 months after COVID, or as soon as you could bring the economy out of it, the economy started to grow again under Trump. Not obviously to where it was. It took a while for that. But you just ask people, what was it like in terms of just your daily or weekly or monthly expenditures? And it was a much more livable country under Trump. And that is the critical issue. Although for me, the critical issue is the disloyalty to the United States. Of course, it's very hard to get people to accept, because it's so hard to believe. But these people are not loyal to the United States. When they object to America first, they're not even thinking about America second, third, or fourth. They're not thinking about America at all. The things they do are completely detrimental to our national security. Selecting Walz as their candidate is absurd. To select a guy who gives every indication of being an operative of the Red Chinese government. So now we're going to get a vice president who's an operative of Red Chinese government. We had a president who got, $30 million from the Red Chinese government. We'll have one after another. And then we're going to have a nitwit who can't put a sentence together sitting at the top. And they're going to try to get her through tomorrow night by holding a hand and wiping her brow and making sure the microphone is cut off. And what else did they get? Oh, she wanted to take notes in. That alone should tell you everything you need to know. Who the hell ever asked to take notes into a presidential debate? I mean, presidential debates go back to Nixon and Kennedy. I've been alive for all of them, and I've paid attention to every single one of them. There have been some great debaters and some awful debaters, and some terribly stupid answers and some brilliant answers. Never heard anyone even have the stupidity to ask to bring in. You might as well admit you're an idiot. I got to bring in cheat sheets. It'd be like asking if you could bring notes into an exam. Maybe if she'd brought the notes into the bar exam, she'd have passed it. I don't know. But then you got to know where to look. Can you imagine if she had the notes? Madam Vice President, or whatever the hell we call her. I don't know what we call her. I don't know. Will they ask her something like, up until some undetermined period, until a few weeks ago, you were vehemently opposed to fracking. What exactly has changed about the science of fracking, or about climate change, that had you recently change your position and now say you will allow fracking? Could you explain that? One second. Well, you didn't give me the answer. She wanted to bring notes in. Maybe like a quarterback, you know? You actually, Madam Vice President, did you actually advocate banning President Trump when he was president of the United States from Twitter, and Elizabeth Warren disagreed with you? I believe that Russia, as a big country, should not. But I'm not asking about Russia. I was asking, should not go into Ukraine, which is a small country. But now I realize that Ukraine is bigger than I thought. But that still doesn't mean that Russia, as a big country, should be able to go into Ukraine as a small country. Well, thank you, Ms. Harris. That was a remarkably erudite description. Now let's go to you, you miserable son of a bitch, Trump.
Well, we talk.
Let's see if you can pick up what Trump. You're not doing what we want you to do. Pick on her. Call her names.
That's the
Pick
thing.
on her.
But Mayor,
Please, Mr. President, don't do that. And I'm talking about the guy that really should be president.
Mayor, in some ways, though, this is shaping up, and be curious to get your guys' thoughts. This is shaping up to be very similar to what we saw in June. Biden went off away for like a week, right, to do debate prep. We didn't hear from him.
That's
Kamala's
right.
gone for a week. We don't hear from her. They could be panicking, right? And here we are now, leading up. We're like, Trump's going to do fine. He's going to do fine. But as we get close, right? Even I, back in June, I was thinking, wait, what are they? They're planning something here. So
Trump,
where's the chance
if I remember that debate, I remember darn well we took notes on everything and we went over it and we reviewed it. Trump, aside, I mean, we remember it because Biden blew up
from the start
more than any president.
The second he walked out on stage, you said something.
The minute he walked out on stage, the first words that he uttered, I've forgotten what they were. I said, "This is over. This guy is no, not Trump. I meant Biden. Biden looked like he was in Never Neverland from the very beginning. He was either on drugs or dementia had set in really hard. I mean, usually, I did think they were going to get him, pump him up with something. I used to describe him as like Dracula.
He was looking really bad.
They let him sleep all day and they pump the blood into him.
Yeah.
And then he comes out at night and he looks like he's a human being.
Go-go juice wasn't working.
And I said, oh boy, it's not working anymore. Yeah. But I mean, that really probably comes about because the dementia had gotten much worse. Do you know, the hard drive is so revelatory, it's unbelievable. I didn't realize, I didn't remember, which is my fault, that on the hard drive, Hunter Biden has a conversation with his questionable psychiatrist, Abelow, in which they both agree that that Joe is demented. That was in 2019, or the son agrees that the old man's demented in 2019,
right,
with the psychiatrist, and they kid around about it. I mean, I knew he was demented in 20. I reported it. I had a podcast with 2 doctors who said he was demented. But it's a progressive disease, or I think the word progressive there is misused like it is for Democrats. They say Democrats are progressive because they want China to control the world.
That's
progressive.
Exactly. I hate that they
Democrats are progressive because they want everybody to be dependent on the government. That's progressive. That's that's a 19th century Marxism. Yeah. It's retrogressive. Yeah. That's been tried about 27 places and led to death and starvation.
Yeah.
The progressive thing, but we use it as a term of derision now. But progressive should mean improving.
About the debate, you had a theory about like June. It's a repeat. We're about to see a repeat.
Well, because Biden prepared so much, and he was so awful. But I mean, it's a different. They suffer from different problems. I mean, Biden suffers from 2 things, more than 2 things. He's an evil man, completely evil human being, and I know that better than anyone, having been the one to first reveal his criminality and to first reveal the hard drive. But he also, having known him for 35 years or more, man is really dumb and stupid. Before he was demented, he was stupid. And he's been clearly demented for the last 6 years. It's only because we have a crooked press and media that hates Trump to the point of insanity that we have this, whatever he is, in the White House. So it really was a question of no matter how much you prepared him, you're just not going to stop that disease. It was bound to happen. I imagine they were hoping they'd get another year out of him or something.
But they were hoping to get him through November.
Yeah. I don't. When you look at him now sitting on the beach, and I don't even think he knows where the hell he is anymore. But in any event, on her, in the case of Kamala, she's got a much more serious problem than people realize with these word salads. These word salads are the indication of an irrational mind, of a mind that doesn't work rationally. Could be the reason she failed the bar exam. It could be the reason why she's been a failure at everything. It could be the reason why she's so defensive. She knows she has an irrational mind. She knows she's not up to where she's been put, which is why she talks in riddles and childish expressions and repeats. When she gets a word, she'll repeat. When she gets a word or an attack, she'll just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it because her mind isn't quick enough to move to another subject or to an alternative way of explaining it, or to understand that what she's saying doesn't. I mean, she doesn't understand Greek logic. I mean, she doesn't understand that you say this and you say that and they contradict each other. Now, can you train that away?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. Just let her talk.
Yeah. So
It was like Biden, but for different reasons. You just let her talk and she'll talk herself out of the presidency.
Well, she appeared to be reading on the Dana Trump fast.
She did. She did. Actually, Ted pointed that. Ted, you pointed that out to me.
Right.
She was like down here.
Oh, I spotted that. That's right.
And
President Trump saw it too.
Yeah, President Trump pointed it out the other day.
Yeah, and I was
and you were very happy because you pointed it out.
To tell him that I was.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help if you read a couple of little things and.
Yeah, exactly. You either know it or you don't.
I mean, I don't know how sterile the debate's going to be, but I mean, she does have the advantage. They will do everything they can to help her. Look at Candy Crowley when she told Romney he was wrong.
Yeah.
And actually, he was right. It turned out he was right. And she told him he was wrong, and he fell apart. But of course, Trump's not Romney. You told Trump he's wrong, he'll kick your freaking head off.
Yeah, middle, thank you. Yeah, middle's like that.
I don't.
You're probably right. Well, remember when I still can't get over when Romney came out and called Trump a man or a fraud or something. Ever?
Yeah, I could see him saying to the question. Did you get that question from Red China? They write that one out for you.
Yeah.
Trump how much are they paying? How much are they paying you?
I would never say something like that.
How much is ABC getting from China?
But Kamala has this weird thing there. She's really bad on her feet. She's really bad, right? Like even like a very straight.
Well, she apparently wasn't so bad not on her feet.
Oh.
That's how she got.
That's a good one.
That's how she got here.
Hey, that takes a quick wit. That's something she doesn't have. What you just did. Something as simple.
I didn't mean anything by that. It just means you got to be good at something. I mean, you can't be a total. Something had to get her there.
It is confusing.
I think I know. Look, I know Willie Brown. I want.
That's right. You're on the cover of a magazine.
Yeah, I mean, totally ridiculous. Another media jerk off. We were on as two great mayors. He had been mayor for 2 weeks. I had been mayor for 6 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say anything.
And set records no other mayor has ever set or has ever exceeded or reached. And I'm here with this guy who's been in office, for a couple of days. It was like giving Biden the Nobel Peace Prize before he got into office. And then he created wars. He created the whole situation with ISIS by calling them the JV. And he created a war that, by the way, Trump settled in about 4 months by just wiping the shit out of them.
What she said he would.
Boy, do we need a president.
City slickers.
There it is, city slickers. I mean, he doesn't deserve to be on that cover any more than Biden deserved. I mean, Obama deserved to get the Nobel Peace Prize. He was a terrible mayor. Please don't compare me to him.
You wound up with an unwanted.
I'm not comparing you, but it's a little piece of history.
City slickers.
City slickers.
Get out of here. He was a city slicker. I was a mayor.
Yeah, but that's used in a
But he's actually a nice guy. I mean, you know.
election. So this was in 1999. This was leading up to the 2020. Oh, no, sorry, the 2000 election. So this must have been 1999. The 25 most dynamic mayors in America. Where were you and where was he on that list? On the Newsweek list. You don't know?
Oh God Almighty, I don't know.
You think but you were at this point mayor for a while. He was new.
Yeah, I've been through hell up at that point. He was new, and then he went ahead and ruined the city.
And he ended up not so he didn't end as a good mayor. He just started.
He didn't start as a good mayor.
Oh, he wasn't?
Well, he got an
Okay.
unwanted endorsement.
From Newsweek.
Oh, that's the whole point.
What the hell was he doing there? I mean, when they told me I was going to be,
You were like insulted.
like, yeah, I'm not even sure
You wanted to be out. You sure
I'm
wanted
not even sure I sat for the interview with them.
Oh, you did.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't talk to those scumbags.
Yeah. That is interesting. I didn't you don't
What's
think
what's the use of talking to them? They just distort what you say. If you talk to them, they'll lie about what you said to them. So if you don't talk to them, at least they can't lie about what you said to them.
that's actually a good point because I always took the thought of
I know there were a lot of people. I did it for Trump.
right? Yeah.
I did it for Trump. I talked to everybody for Trump because nobody had the guts to do it.
If you're someone
But not for myself. My own rule was if they're completely on the other side, it's useless to talk to
Yeah.
them because they're not going to convey your point.
yeah,
Right.
You might as well find at least a neutral place or a favorable
you
place.
shouldn't cooperate with
So they'll let you talk. Just let me talk. Don't interpret it. Just let me talk to my voters. There was a headline in Newsday, which was very unfavorable newspaper to me and to Republicans. But there was a headline about 6 months into my mayoralty because they figured out what I was doing. It said Air Rudy. You can get that cover sometime. Air Rudy. And what they figured out was I was constantly on radio and television. Unlike Kamala. That's a different one, but you'll find it. It might take a little while. But Air Rudy was the fact that I was on television and radio
I love that.
constantly. I would let a press conference go as long as they wanted, unless I had something to do. Every once in a while, if I walked out of a press conference and they say I walked out, it would be after an hour. And then I would come back. You want more answers? I'll give you more answers. I'm smarter than you are anyway.
They're mind boggled by substantive thinkers. That's the difference. That you short circuit them because they can't keep.
So I actually did my job.
Right.
I mean, I stayed up at night and I studied and I asked questions and I went around meeting with people and going to diners, and I always wanted contact with people, and I just wanted the chance to get an opportunity to explain what I was doing in my own words, and then you can attack it all you want.
Right.
Because I think I'm going to persuade most people because I have good motives and I have common sense, and of course I wasn't right about everything. But then maybe in that process, we can also correct that, right? Melania Trump has emerged and she put out a statement. I guess she has a book coming up and it's part of a video about her book. But I'm going to read to you what at least has been quoted in the Post. The 2020 election results changed our lives forever. Yeah, there are people dead, Melania. You know that. It impacted our quality of life, cost of food, gasoline, safety, even the geopolitical landscape. Her husband left the world basically at peace. We now have the world at war in significant places with the possibility of a world war. You can't, I mean, to me, that's even worse than our economy. He has imperiled dramatically the national security of the United States. He and Harris. They've gotten Americans killed needlessly. They've gotten hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians killed needlessly. He argued the country is more divided today than ever before, without any doubt, while raising the alarm over concerns about free speech, which may be the most critical issue, because without free speech, we have nothing. We got nothing.
Good point.
It has become increasingly apparent that there are significant challenges to free speech, as demonstrated by efforts to silence my husband. which goes right back to Kamala Harris wanting him taken off Twitter. And even Elizabeth Warren understood how damaging that was
What?
to what America is all about.
Warren pushed.
Well, Elizabeth Warren didn't agree that he should be taken off.
Wow.
That was during one of the debates when they were both running for president, and she lasted for as long as it took for people to figure out she was a nitwit, which was which was after she was exposed to Tulsi Gabbard for 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah. 4 or 5. To be fair, Massachusetts, right? He can be on that ballot. He probably won't win it.
What? Well,
to be fair, she's not going on. You know, I want to see that happen in a state like Michigan. Let's have a Democrat come up and say, "Hey, take off RFK," right? I'm making a small, silly point.
No, it is silly.
It's right, like, yeah,
It isn't a silly point. The highest court of Michigan reversed the intermediate appellate court that restored that abided by RFK's wishes and let him get off the ballot, and they put him back on the ballot. Except they won't tell you how they voted.
What does that tell
Now
you?
it's really stupid because you can figure it out. Because there were 3 Republicans and 4 Democrats on the court. Now let's see if we can figure this out, because we're smarter than Harris and the Democrats in Michigan. 2 of the Republicans dissented. What does that mean? That means they voted against it. They wrote a dissent or dissented. 1 Republican remained silent, and the 4 Democrats remained silent and didn't put their names on it. So it's got to be 4 Democrats and 1 rhino, of which there are many in Michigan, voted for a political decision, and 2 Republicans voted against it. We can figure that out, but they're trying to hide it. Why don't you write an opinion and explain your legal theory? Because it's bullshit. That's why. It's the same thing as the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania deciding that being present at an election recount is enough. You don't have to get to see the ballot, as long as you're in the room, even if you're 100 yards away. Being present. Now, the intermediate court there had also reversed and said it can't possibly mean that you're a potted plant. It's got to mean you're there for a purpose. But on party lines, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania rendered a completely intellectually dishonest, politically motivated, corrupt decision. I know it's a court, but we got a problem with our courts. In Democrat-dominated dictatorships like New York, like Chicago, like Philadelphia, the politicians put the judges on the court, and the politicians tell them how to decide political cases, or they ain't going to be on the court. That's the way it is, going back to Tammany Hall and Boss Tweed. Oh, by the way, we have a Tweed courthouse in New York. I hope we're the only state that is named a courthouse after one of the most corrupt politicians in history. But I guess it's like a standard for our Democrats, so they can exceed it. Witness just about everybody at the highest level of the Adams administration being raided by the FBI. Now, is it possible that this is Biden revenge? Who knows? I mean, I can't interpret things the way I could have like 20 years ago, in which I can interpret what the FBI did in Canada. And I can tell you, 70% of what's left out of that affidavit. I can tell you probably what's there. And I know I can tell you where the Brooklyn Jewish Center is that they're talking about. I mean, they gave away enough so that somebody with my expertise would figure it out. But when they go rogue on me and the prosecutors become criminal, like our attorney general, it's impossible to interpret them and know what they're going to do. How do you know what they're going to do? I mean, if they don't like you, they'll indict you. Look, they indicted Manafort for violating FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act. If you look at the hard drive, I can't count how many times Hunter Biden violated it. He's a serial violator. It's demonstrably overproven by the hard drive. 100 times, 50 times, 100 times. He and his Confederates, they don't even mention it. So how the hell do you indict or prosecute Manafort for one act of it? And this guy does it 100 times and he can get away with it? I mean, how do you ever prosecute anybody for FARA now? Some guy fails to register and you're going to go prosecute him? When this guy made a mockery of the FARA law and they just stood there. And if you look carefully at everything they charged him with, and these prosecutors are as crooked as hell. None of that money, which there's a certain argument that the tax charges would not have been charged against anybody else because they left out any of the charges of any kind, including money laundering, that would go back to Biden. You don't have any of the Ukraine money. You don't have any of the China money. You don't have any of the Kazakhstan money. You don't have any of the Russia money. You don't have any of the Romanian money. You think that's not on purpose? Well, then you're foolish. You got to get somebody to help you get through life.
They did all that to protect Biden, and then up until the point
You need a microphone. Not gonna do any good, Rob, if you don't have a mic.
They did all that to protect Biden until they decided that they had no more use for him anymore, and then they threw him on.
No, they didn't throw him under the bus. He got caught. I mean, they were going to let him. They're going to let him skate a year and a half ago. They had a deal in which he would actually got immunity completely. It was the whistleblowers that came forward. There's a great column today by that wonderful, gifted, patriotic reporter Miranda Devine explaining the contribution of the whistleblowers. But they came forward, and a very, very brave judge refused to take the deal. Said, "Screw you, out of the court." The way this guy should have, the Alford plea. Well, I think the judge made it clear they're not going to take an Alford plea.
Didn't he end up pleading? Didn't he end up taking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The judge actually. What the judge did was, he had the entire indictment read to Hunter Biden, and had him admit that every single bit of it was true.
Yeah. So he didn't accept an offer to appeal.
Yeah. But honestly, those charges amount to nothing. The charges that they convicted him of amount to.
We're talking about Hunter now.
Yeah, Hunter. I mean, every one of they deliberately, and the whistleblowers will tell you this, they deliberately left out anything that would go back to Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And then they just keep repeating, there's no evidence that money went to Joe Biden. And there's the strongest piece of evidence that you could ever have that money went to Joe Biden. It's an email or text message, I don't remember, in the words of his own son, that over 30 years, he gave half of his income to his father. Well, what the hell was the income for in the first place? It was for his father's influence. It was buying his office. The Biden crime family became multi-zillionaires, millionaires, with one product, Joe Biden's office, that they sold over and over and over again. They also defrauded numerous people, that one after another. And every time they'd go to court, they'd get screwed by a crooked court, because the Bidens have completely corrupted our law enforcement and our courts, where they can get control of it. And then you wonder why nobody would hear the election fraud cases, because they pick crooked places to do the election fraud. And the judges didn't want to get involved. Well, look at the condition that we're in as a result of that. And please, please, don't look to somebody else to fix it for you. You got to fix it. You got to fix it with your neighbors, with your friends, anybody you can get. Believe me, they're already cheating. Look what they're doing in Michigan. We're trying to keep RFK's name on, so it'll take votes from Trump, and take who was it, Stein or the other one, off the ballot? Who do they want off the ballot?
Dr. Cornel West.
Oh, Cornel West, because he takes votes from Trump. I mean, from Biden. I mean, this is the woman that the Secretary of State, who already has interfered in the 2024 election by taking Trump off the ballot for nothing. There's no charge of insurrection. There's no proof of insurrection. There's no trial for insurrection. Of the thousands of people that they've persecuted over January 6th, there's not a single charge of insurrection. And she, on her own, decided that Trump was involved in insurrection and took him off, only to be told that it was entirely illegal, even by her Democrat Supreme Court, because they didn't look too stupid if they'd said anything else, and then by the Supreme Court. Why wasn't she removed then as having anything to do with elections? Didn't that display massive bias by her, as well as the one in Maine and who the hell knows which others? They just tried to take him off the ballot. We're going to take him off the ballot. And he's the one that's going to affect democracy. And these stupid people, by 5 points, think that she'll protect our democracy better than Trump. They've already done a good deal to destroy our democracy. That's not destroying our democracy, taking him off the ballot, indicting him for 4 crimes in 1 year, and making that year the year of the election. Re-indicting him a week ago, right before the election. That's not interfering with our election.
They give the word hypocrite.
Nah, much worse than hypocrites.
Yeah.
They're tyrants.
Yeah.
They really are. They're a terrible thing. Well, we've got some very important elections in New York, you know. We've got 3 on Long Island. We've got 3 upstate, and they're very, very close. So we're going to want to talk a little bit about that. I think the ones on Long Island, the issue should be Sanctuary City, because a lot of those communities are very much affected by both Hochul and Adams' embrace of Uber Sanctuary City. That's the reason why we have all of these illegal aliens here, and they're causing havoc in parts of Nassau and Suffolk County as well as New York, and they're affecting the budget of the entire state. New York City this year will spend more on the illegal aliens than it will on its police department. Good luck in being protected. Who wants to join it with a bum like Adams, the former cop? Was not a cop. He worked under me. Talk to my commissioners. Nobody can remember an arrest that he ever made. They remember a lot of spurious bullshit that he raised. And he even endorsed me in 1997 against Dinkins. I mean, against, not against Dinkins. What he pointed out was that I was an improvement to Dinkins. He now retracts that. But that's old history. So what are we going to look for in the what are we going to look for in the debate tomorrow night in the few minutes we have left here in soccer time?
And so as we talk about this, I want to bring up just a quick picture of Melania's upcoming book, so people can take a look at that. There it is. There's the cover. We love Melania. I want to give her a quick
Sure.
her book here. So visit melaniatrump.com.
Great woman.
Pre-order that shit today.
Highly unfairly treated. My goodness. To have the first stepmother on the cover of Vogue 3 times and not Melania.
Pathetic.
It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
Sure, right? Kind of clown world we live in. But for tomorrow night, Mayor, I'm curious. I guess Trump has, I mean, they're playing it, but it's like a different set of rules, right?
I think one of the things that Trump is going to do, given the points that he made the other day, it was 8 or 9 points that he laid out. I think he's going to go very heavy on the conspiracy to hide Biden's dementia and Harris's role in that.
Yeah.
That she's known. Somebody should remind him that way back in 2019, Hunter and Abelow say that the old man's demented. I mean, she had to know
And she
And he was demented, and she was out there defending him after his ridiculous performance, and he was perfect. He was fine. He was
did that knowing that if she played it right, they'd have to make her the nominee.
Yeah.
So she did it for her own personal gain, doing what was good for her.
How to make her the
Yeah,
nominee
nothing-
almost for the same reason they selected her. I mean, it's completely
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Exactly.
completely DEI. I mean, it's
They were afraid.
they had to select her because Biden limited his choice to a black woman. He wanted a black woman as his VP. Who the hell does that? I mean, who the hell limits your choice before you make it for something as important as the vice president of the United States,
Isn't that discriminatory against all people that are
including black men? Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to even consider any black men. I mean, it's ridiculous that we accepted it and tolerated it. It's ridiculous that the press didn't rip that apart. And they selected her because they were afraid they would offend the black community if they turned her down, even though they all know she's a nitwit. 90% of her staff is left.
In an effort to combat.
They're doing the same thing with her they did with Biden. Case of Biden, they spent 4 years hiding the fact that he was unfit to be president of the United States, which is to the point of being a traitor when you do that. I mean, they knew he was a bumbling, demented, senile old man. At least over the last year, it was so apparent. It was ridiculous. She knew that. She just lied and lied and lied and lied and lied. And now she wants to be president.
In an effort to combat gender and race-based hiring, they hired her based off her gender and race. Isn't that absurd?
Yes, Lawrence.
They could be fighting against
all of those policies have continued racism and discrimination
This is
and made it much, much worse.
This is why I say they take hypocrite to a new meaning.
Yeah, hypocrite with the capital letters.
Yeah.
And the neon lights.
New meaning.
like they're slapping, like they're shoving it in our face. Look what we can do.
Yeah.
Nothing you can. We're combating race-based hiring by hiring someone based off their race. We're combating gender-based hiring by hiring someone based off their gender.
Yeah.
And people go for it. That's the problem there. In a way, we almost, well, not in this case because they cheated, but often we get the leaders we deserve, right? In this case, they cheated like hell, so that's not the case. But
he did. I mean, no matter whether they cheated or not, he did get an awfully large vote.
Yeah, that's
for a guy who didn't campaign, for a guy who stayed in the basement.
Like this should.
Back then, he was saying things like, "I love it when little children touch the hair on my legs."
Right.
Little girls, maybe he even said. I don't know. I mean, he was pointing out that he was senile and perverted. And then they covered up the hard drive with all those scoundrels, prostitutes from the intelligence community.
Which
One of whom introduced her. Leon Panetta, who's one of the spies that lied blatantly.
It's unbelievable.
Introduced her as the candidate of the crooked party, the party of slavery. No wonder Kennedy left. No wonder Tulsi Gabbard left. No wonder Professor Dershowitz left. You should leave. No, but there should be a second party in this country. Yes. I am hoping, and that's why I would like them wiped out. I'd like to see them wiped out, and they form a new party.
Oh God, that'll never happen.
With based on patriotism, with a new name. I mean, the name should be sullied by the support of slavery. My goodness, if we take down statues of people who didn't say enough about slavery,
they're the communists.
They're much worse than any statue we took down. They were the party of slavery. They're the party of segregation. They're the party that has
diversity,
that has enslaved tragically some portion of our poor community now, and live off that. And that's why they bring the migrants in, the aliens in. They've already registered in their crooked states, 27% of them. Hopefully, they're not going to get to vote. Who knows? In New York City, the city council voted to allow illegals to vote. The court has enjoined it because the state constitution says you have to be a citizen. Doesn't stop our crooked Democrat city council from voting that even if you're not a citizen, you can vote when the constitution of the state says you have to be a citizen. They have trashed our constitution, which is why people like Dershowitz can't have that name attached to them any longer. I wouldn't have that name attached to me back in 1970 when I realized how crooked they are.
Yes.
As a prosecutor, I realized that this city, it's been 100 at that point, about 150 years of straight crookedness, except maybe for LaGuardia, and then me, and Bloomberg, and right back to it with De Blasio and the guy who all of his aides have been raided. Well,
Mayor, before we go, we do have to touch upon the. I mean, and then we got to do more research on the situation in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio. We are hearing reports of Haitian migrants. It's true that thousands of Haitians were placed in Ohio by the Biden-Harris regime.
I didn't know that until now that was the case. I mean,
Promised everything.
But are you aware of the news today?
yes, but I wasn't aware of it before.
Okay.
But tell us about it.
So Ohio residents in a small town are.
This is ridiculous. This is crazy.
I mean, this is a crazy story. There's been an influx of upwards of 20,000.
This sounds like another Aurora.
That's right. But even
except with Haitians and they're eating animals, right?
That's right.
They're eating domestic pets.
This started under COVID, by the way. Residents have been pointing to
cats. They're eating cats.
COVID. No, the relocation of Haitians into Springfield.
Was this the situation where they were alleged to be eating animals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which part of that's just a cultural difference. I mean, look.
Well, I mean, they're not going to do much good if you take my little cat and tell me there's a cultural difference and kill it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be kind of angry. I mean, how about you accept a civilized culture before you come here? We don't let people in here who aren't civilized.
This is a
if you eat animals, I'm sorry. If you eat cats and dogs, I'm sorry, you're not civilized.
People's pets.
This is
sorry, you're not civilized if you eat cats and dogs. You hear that, China?
Thousands of Haitians have arrived in Springfield, Ohio since the COVID-19 pandemic, and residents have been pointing to an uptick in crime, mayhem, and car crashes due to the massive influx.
I'm shocked, really, because the Haitian community in New York was a pretty darn easy community to work with for me when I was mayor. I mean, we had a big Haitian migration to Brooklyn. They got involved in the car livery business.
Yeah, because they knew.
And they're very solid people with an unfortunate government. You know, Haiti probably has the worst poverty in the Western Hemisphere. It has very often they say, and I've been to Haiti 2 or 3 times a long time ago, but they say, and I my own observation, because I've been both to Haiti and India, let's say, and then to at least half of the South American countries. It really is like South America has third world poverty in a lot of South America. But when you get to parts of China and Asia and Africa, you're talking about fourth world poverty. Right?
Well, think of Haiti.
Haiti is like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Haiti, the poverty in Haiti is unreal. The people are wonderful people. They're too accepting. They're too accepting. They've accepted this for 100 and something years.
Yeah.
And unlike some of the other South American countries where you have had revolutions and protests, and they just accept it. It's both religious, they're Catholic, but they're also Satan worshipers, right?
I don't get how this happens, though.
I don't know how. I don't know why they eat cats.
People relocated to a town of 58,000 from a different country. I don't care. It's not about them being black or skin color, right? It's just how in this country do we accept
people who obviously aren't ready for civilization if they're eating domestic pets.
They're.
I mean, it's absurd. We're having
English.
It's absurd we're having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's absurd. It's absurd. It comes about because of the unbelievable nature of the open border policy created an invasion. It's worse than an invasion. When the hell has a country ever been invaded by 10 to 20 million people, and they don't know who they are? We have no idea who the hell they are. You can't tell me like Adams does. Oh, they're people seeking a better life. I don't know that.
Yeah, why?
We never checked them out in the first place. They may be people who are seeking somebody to rape, like the guy in New Orleans, or somebody to sell fentanyl to, like the records we have of people dying by fentanyl. How did we allow this when this idiot stood up at the Democrat convention in 2020 and told them to surge to the border? At that point, everybody should have voted against him.
Absolutely.
What are we crazy? We're crazy. We're giving our country away. Bye-bye, America.
Giving it
We're
away.
giving our civilization away, our Western civilization away. We are succumbing to anti-civilized behavior. Eating domestic pets?
And some, not just that, some,
Now, it is true. I love dogs and cats, but
no, not just that, but stealing other people's pet. This isn't like China or somewhere where I guess that's what they do by custom to their own supply. This is
you know,
them coming to someone
I
else's
watch,
yard and
I
stealing
watch,
and-
I watch a lot of these documentaries on rescued dogs and cats. And you never know which ones are real and which ones aren't. There are 2 or 3 that I can recommend to you that are really good and really, really doing wonderful work in parts of the world that torture dogs and cats. But and some of them are staged, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it is a real problem, and it does reflect itself very, very often in people who are inhumane to animals are inhumane to humans. I remember a story, and I'm going to finish with this. And when I was a young boy in high school, and as a Bishop Lockon High School in Brooklyn, and I went with a group of kids, and they wanted to go to the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's a bit of a walk, but not very far. And I was a pretty tough kid, and they wanted me to go with them because I could sort of protect them. I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" Oh, they said, "We're going to grab some cats, stray cats, and we're going to throw them over the bridge." Yeah, what? Yeah, we put a wire on their neck and we break their neck and we throw them over the bridge. I said, "Why do you do that?" "I don't know. It's fun." I said, "Well, go F yourself. I'm going home. I'm going home." And then I said, I remember telling my parents, I bet they're going to become mass killers eventually. I mean, they probably were about 15. What the hell are you throwing cats over there for fun? I'm sorry. It reflects an evilness, a meanness, a disrespect for God's creatures or nature's creatures. If you don't want to believe in God, at least don't kill animals, huh? And kill domestic animals. I'm fine with hunting, and when somebody domesticates an animal and it becomes part of their family and you kill it, it's pretty darn close to killing a human being. And I think if you can do that, you can kill a domestic animal just for the hell of it. Who knows what you can do? But I mean, these people obviously are not ready to come to the United States. I mean, also you got to worry about disease. We got 10 to 20 million people here, and we have no idea who the hell they are, really. The vetting was either cursory or non-existent, and then a whole bunch of them came in and nobody even saw them. So what the hell diseases are they going to spread here? They're coming from the 3rd and 4th world. They eat domestic animals. Oh, well.
Can I make a prediction about tomorrow's debate?
Yeah, but you got to do it in the microphone or nobody will hear you. But and then we've got to then we got to call it quits. We have a marathon going on here.
We were very concerned about the last debate with the moderators between Trump and Biden, that the moderators were going to dominate and they were going to. But maybe that format actually will work in Trump's behalf. Maybe it'll work in his behalf.
Well,
just ask the straight.
If anybody can deal with it, he can.
Right. And it'll expose her for being the idiot that we all know she is. I mean, I'm not to dump on it.
I make no. I just don't know. I think it's unpredictable.
It's unpredictable
when you have people as biased as that.
I know. But it was the questions they asked that led to those catastrophes for Biden, where he just couldn't.
Yeah, and she had as easy an interview with Dana Trump-ash as you could get, and she screwed it up horribly.
Right.
I mean, she got lost, and
she was reading,
and it's going to be harder in that format to help her back, like Dana Trump-ash did with interrupting and giving her a suggestion of what the answer is, or giving her a way to explain. Like she said to her, "Was there something you read or some change in the science that led you to change your position on fracking. We should have looked at it dumbfounded. Read? I don't read.
And even a regular American,
Somebody reads for me.
common American person sitting at home is looking at
And
this
she
and
couldn't give an answer to it. I mean,
Right.
you would think if she had half a brain, she'd make one up. Right?
So that's my possible prediction.
And then when she makes them up, they're stupid.
I'm hoping that's the way it goes.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And but we're going to spend time thinking about it and collecting some information about it to see if we can give you some hints as to what to look for. And at the same time, we'll get ready for a very, very solemn day on Wednesday. So let's pray for the people of Israel and the people of Ukraine. Let's pray for everyone affected by September 11. So many children who grew up without fathers and mothers. And let's remember them. And God bless America.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,